Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bear Experiment podcast. I'm your host, Monica Clavijo, and today's very special guest is Mr. Scott Schrey. Now, Scott is the founder of the Foldy mat and has turned his personal journey of battling active addiction into an inspiring mission to enhance the global wellness community. His story is one of resilience, personal growth, and commitment to improving the yoga and fitness experience for practitioners of all levels. More than just a product, the Foldy mat symbolizes Scott's transformation and his dedication to fostering a healthier, more mindful lifestyle. Now, Scott is also the driving force behind the Free Zone Project, an initiative aimed at supporting individuals who are struggling with addiction and depression. The Free Zone Project provides coaching, school programs, seminars, and workshops designed to offer guidance and support. The project focuses on educating people about the concept of addiction as an allergy and the phenomenon of the craving that is triggered by the allergic reaction, helping individuals understand that addiction is not a choice, but a genetic condition that requires education, compassionate and informed real-time techniques and care. Welcome to the Bear Experiment podcast, Scott.
Thank
It's
you very much.
it's an honor to be speaking with you. I absolutely love your story.
So
And I
do
really
I.
you should
Yeah,
be very proud of everything that you've accomplished.
yeah,
So I find these topics of people that are struggling, human beings just like you and I. We all go through funks, we go through difficult situations, whether it's the death of a loved one, a breakup, a divorce, an addiction, whatever the
mhm,
case may be. And we fall into such a deep, dark hole and depression that we don't see a way out. No matter who we talk to or who's trying to talk to us, we're just not listening, right? We got the blindfolds on the entire time. So when I listen to stories such as yourself, where, you've had this amazing life transformation, I love to share that story with others because I do
yeah.
believe that even if it's one person, you are helping that one person and you could possibly be saving that one person's life. So thank you again for speaking with us.
Wow, it's a
So
noble, I like to say a noble honor.
yeah, thank you.
I live with nobility, um, and honor and respect and love and kindness and all those beautiful, happy horseshit terms.
Hey man,
But
whatever works for you, right?
well, I
Whatever's
mean,
gonna
the
help
reason why
you.
it works is it's because it's our core.
Right.
We were born pure. We were born untainted. We were born unbothered. And through the course of, really ignorance and misguided or misunderstandings or misrepresentations, we took things inaccurate, or I did. I mean, I'm just like a case study like everybody else. There's nothing,
Sure.
different than me. I'm just another guy on the bus. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really do believe and know that it's a noble honor to be of service to yourself
Mm-hmm.
first, and then to others. I like to say a super quick second after.
And the how you get to that level where you're at today, where you're servicing others with, your growth and your spiritualism, right? It's through
Right.
recognizing your self-love. And I think that's it. Once you get to that point where you understand, I am love. And
Mm.
and everything is going to be okay. And you're not alone, even though you think you are alone.
Yeah.
So, what why don't you share your story? I'd like to start with your story. I know that you were an amazing athlete from everything that I'm reading about you. You were super social. You come from a great family, like you had everything going for you. So what led you on this path of like depression and anxiety?
Well, I wouldn't say anxiety, but I would definitely say depression, and I would definitely coin it self-imposed depression. And it really started to happen to me at adolescence, where I could probably pinpoint it in seventh grade when it started, because in seventh grade, the boys are different, start being different than the girls. In
Okay.
sixth grade, we're all pretty much even. And then the girls in seventh grade, because they hit puberty first,
Sure.
start pulling ahead and kind of leave the boys of their own age in the dust. So I was this popular, super, neat kid. I am a popular, super neat kid,
You
but
are.
yeah, and we all have super neat qualities about us. And I can give myself humble praise simply because just because I'm a super neat kid or guy or man or boy, it doesn't make me better than anyone else.
Of course.
We're all equal, and the fundamentals of our foundation is, we were all, for me, and what I say and seem to think is the ancient truth, um, is that we were all conceived, we were all carried in our mother's wombs, and we were all birthed the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
So how could we not be equal?
Right.
How could anyone be any better or any less than when we were all conceived, carried, and birthed the
Right.
exact same way as the exact same thing? I feel, I want, I desire, I aspire, I have a nose, I have eyes, I have ears, I have hair, I have a body, uh, like everyone else.
Right.
So, the whole idea of separation and doesn't exist. It doesn't matter what your sexuality is, doesn't matter what your gender is, doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. Um, we're all equal. And that's not what I knew or grew up to being. What I like to call, I lots of self-discrimination. I think we're a society, and I'm not, I'm a silver lining, half full guy for the record. And I think we have a society that's with an epidemic of um, self, I just said it. I always lose words. Self-discrimination.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
that's really my core of my message is that we're all equal, because in seventh grade I started to think and feel less than of myself, and that thought created a feeling of unworthiness. How we think dictates how we feel, and how we
100%.
feel dictates our experience. So starting in seventh grade, I thought I wasn't good enough because I was left in the dust by the girls that really liked me in sixth grade, for the boys that were in eighth grade, or better yet, the boys that were in eighth grade that were held back, that were supposed to be in ninth grade.
That's right. So now they
That's
look
what
they
they,
look a lot older, right?
well, because those boys hit puberty, they had
Right.
developed, and the girls, were developing too. Um, and that's pretty much how it started. And once that starts, if there's no interception and redirection of that thought or that perspective or that belief system, it just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. So I just, I didn't, Alanis Morissette wrote a song, and in it she says, "We all needed something to believe, so we did,"
Mm-hmm.
meaning we have a belief system and we believe what we think. And I wasn't prepared properly. My Nobody knew what I was going through. Nobody looked at me and said, which I think they should, and if I have anything to do about it, they will, "Don't worry, buddy, you're going to catch up."
So you never spoke to anybody. You
I
never had
never,
anybody that you can feel comfortable and speak to at that age.
no, you don't even have, I didn't even have, I had the thoughts, but I didn't necessarily have the words,
Right. Right. You don't
you
know how to
know,
you're right. You didn't know how to
that
express yourself.
language.
Right.
But somebody should, like the adults, Like one of the things in the project, the free zone that I created, one of the motto statements is, if I only knew then what I know now
Mhm.
shouldn't exist, because we should be telling them then what we know now.
Absolutely. Right.
Like, and they can laugh at me or laugh at whoever's telling them behind our back, but the message should get there. Like, there's a lot of messages that aren't being given to adolescent developing, that's the kicker, human beings properly. And as a result, we're developing improper. I developed improper.
Do
And
you
that in
think, but do you think that maybe that's a result of our generation where, our parents were a lot more closed-minded? I think that parents are speaking a lot more openly with their children today.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
don't know how much, but I don't that really doesn't matter. What matters is for me, and if I ever get the chance and if it's in my purpose, I'll step up and swing, and I've developed a project to do so.
Hmm.
um, I'll make sure that the kids are hearing that. I'll
Yeah.
make sure of it. I won't assume that they are getting it at home or, at church or, some sort of youth group. Like, everybody needs to know that they're equal no matter what, whether you're a late bloomer for puberty or not, whether you're slow or fast or good or bad or tall or small. Like, it doesn't, we're all equal, and they need to know why. We need to know why. Okay, great, but why? And
That's
the
just
reason
that,
why,
that's such a confusing age, just in general, right?
yeah,
Hormonally,
yeah,
you like you said, you have no one that you can comfortably
yeah,
go and speak to.
yeah,
Sometimes our parents are our biggest enemies because they want us to
yeah,
toughen up because the world is a tough place to live in, right?
yeah,
So they want us to toughen up. So we go to them with a problem where in our heads we're about to jump off the roof of a
yeah,
building, and to them they're just like, go have dinner. Shut up.
yeah,
Go do your homework, right? So
yeah.
I
Well, it
get it.
has to be an ongoing lesson plan and training too. It can't be like just a week. Like, the project that I developed is, very repetitious.
Hmm.
There's a lot of, because if anyone was ever good at anything, they got that way because they practiced.
Learning patterns, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
of course,
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
it's almost like I almost daydream about them saying, "Oh God, not this again, you again, this again," because I want them to roll their eyes and be like, "I've got this,
Right.
I've
Right.
got it,"
Exactly. Yeah.
and then make sure, and okay, you got this. Then why don't you lead the class? Come up and lead the class, or so just creative stuff like that, and it's just simple self equality, self-worth programming, to make sure, and this is the kicker, that they're not suffering the way I did, because this, I'm circling back to the, where we started, from self-discrimination. I discriminated myself because I didn't hit puberty in the same time that the girls did, and the girls didn't like me.
Was it all in your head now as you self-reflect and are an
No,
adult?
they like the older boys, but that's okay. Nobody
Yeah.
told me nobody said that that's okay.
Hmm.
Nobody made sense of that to me. If somebody would have made sense of that to me, or at least given me the information to make sense of it if I was able, I could have. I
Right.
didn't I didn't even have a fair chance. Like, it's not my my proper efforts in the category of educating and inspiring has nothing to do with what ultimately someone takes in or not, and everything to do with the presentation, so they have the best chance to take it in. If someone
Right.
doesn't take it in, it's really none of my business, as
So you,
long as. Mhm.
I'm sorry. So you're dealing with, all of these self-doubts at such a young
Sure.
age,
Yeah,
and that spirals out of control. Why don't you
yeah.
walk
It
us
can
through that?
Well, I mean, it only spiraled out of control internally. Externally, nobody really would have known it was going on.
You were good at hiding it.
Well, yeah, I mean, um, I wasn't sitting down in a therapy session and somebody asking me how I felt, you know. But I definitely did not feel part of, and I didn't think I was part of. I didn't think I was good enough, and therefore I felt separate and I felt less than. See, it all stems from a thought.
It was
I
all
don't
thinking. Yeah.
I don't feel before I think. I think and then I feel. So yeah, I just didn't feel good about myself. And then come to find out that just grew and grew and grew because I went from seventh grade to ninth grade and still didn't hit puberty because I was a late bloomer,
Mm-hmm.
which in my daydream of the right things happening, somebody noticed that I'm a late bloomer and pulls me aside and says, I was a late bloomer too. And
Right.
I know
Right.
what you're thinking, that you're not going to get there, but you will.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, everything that you're concerning yourself with now means nothing to you as an adult. So please take it lightly. And I say that to kids all the time. Like I'm like, and I'm, like I don't I say it in my free zone program, but I also say that in my everyday life if I ever get a chance, like just for the record, in case you're concerned, it's not concerning. And again, whether or not they take that in or not. See, I know the damage I did to myself. I know the damage I did from the influence of society's suppression. These, and I don't have a problem with it. I just want to do something about it. Like
You
I'm
want to
not
be able
angry.
to help the next person that's dealing with the same situation.
I want to shift society,
That's a
and to your point, like society is shifting. I just don't want to be so, dare I say, um, too far-sighted about it. I don't want to be too I don't want to use the word woke, but there's some things that are good about what woke. Being awake is good. Being too much of something is not. So I don't want to be too much of it, but I definitely have a beef with the ignorance um that I went through that was um it was avoidable.
right.
It really was. But maybe I'll do something about it or maybe I won't. That's really kind of like up to God. I position myself to be able to do something about it. Um, I've pitched what I positioned myself to do. Just there hasn't been any takers yet. And maybe I haven't pitched hard enough, and that's fine too. Like I'll pitch when I pitch. It's no
No,
big
it's like,
deal.
yeah, right. Just as long as you don't give up and you continue your journey
Yeah.
and your
Yeah.
purpose, I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
So what happened to me was little, I was, I'm a double whammy. Like I'm actually a triple whammy. So as a late bloomer, that gave me the girls matured before me and the boys, and which made it worse. I was a late bloomer. So I was really not good enough. The watched pot never boils, you know. And so finally hit puberty like around 10th grade, and that was late. But what happened with me in 10th grade is my sexuality started to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And my sexuality wasn't a normal sexuality. So that put me behind the eight ball even more. And I really felt separate or thought I was not good enough or not no good and therefore separate and less than. And then I put a drink or a drug in my body around that time because, keg parties, and I had older friends that were doing, drugs recreational that I did earlier than I would probably have normally
Right.
done them. And as soon as I put a drink and cocaine in my system, I exhaled. And rightly so. I mean, that's what those drugs do, and that's what
Yeah,
alcohol does. It numbs you.
it's an
So
escape.
well, it wasn't an escape, it was a numbing. So the first time in my life, I wasn't on pins and needles because of my continued adolescent angst.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's fair too. Like, I mean, that's what alcohol and recreational drugs are for, which I have absolutely no problem with. You know, there's $1 trillion industry of alcohol for one reason. Take a load off. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's okay, you know. But little did I know that I, because I was so angst ridden, that it created what I call a false enlightenment. So I was enlightened for the first time in my life falsely, but it didn't matter that it was false. I didn't even know that it was false. All I knew is that I felt better.
Right.
I felt in my own skin.
Mm-hmm.
I felt connected. I felt equal.
Accepted. Yeah.
Yeah, not even, well, I would say self-accepted, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because I was accepted for sure. You know, I happened to be a pretty popular kid and a good athlete, so I was accepted. And I was a good-looking kid, so I was accepted. But I didn't have self-acceptance, right? And that's what really matters. Like, you don't have to accept me if I have self-acceptance.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I
It all
mean?
starts with you. It all starts with
Like,
you.
it all starts with you. And this is why, you know, another one of my passions is about, like, it's gonna make me cry. The lyric, teach them well and let them lead the way.
Mm-hmm.
We're not teaching them well. You know, I wasn't taught well. And we should, you know, that lyric and that song has been around forever, you know, and no one's really taking it. And I could be wrong to a certain extent. No one's taking that to the masses in the proper way, in the way that I'm speaking of, in terms of first and foremost, self equality, secondly, self worth, and then self-respect, and what actually having self-respect means, you know, holding yourself in high regard. You know, the definition of respect is to hold something in high regard. You know, I didn't hold myself in high regard. And that's my birthright. My birthright is to hold myself in high regard. We're born to hold ourselves in high regard. We hold ourselves in high regard at birth, and we lose that along the way. And that that shouldn't happen. You know, I mean, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Okay, but I'm standing on the ground of it shouldn't happen.
Right.
You know, and it would only take, you know, a specific curriculum in a specific class, starting at probably fourth grade and never stopping till 12th, like that repetition. And to make sure, you know, I learned about math and science and like,
Right.
fuck, I mean, like, really? Okay, I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. They
It's
want our
important.
brains.
Right.
They want our brains to be working in a certain way and maturing in a certain way. But I mean, what? I do math like what, to tally a bill?
Right. And the
I
computers
don't
are doing
use
everything
math.
for you now anyway, right? So,
Right. So
yeah.
anyway, cutting back, um, I put a drink or a drug in my body. My angst immediately was numb, and rightly so. That's what drugs and alcohol does. But for me, it was compounded because I had so much angst that it turned into an enlightenment. I was enlightened. And it was a false enlightenment because drugs and alcohol, you know, aren't supposed, you know, enlightenment comes from, you know, a perspective, spirituality, giving back, loving, being kind, you know, that's how enlightenment, you know, naturally comes. But I call it a false enlightenment because, it was drugs and alcohol. So I just really wanted more, it's it's natural and sensible that if I felt at ease for the first time in my life, I would want to do it again.
It's understandable, 100%.
Totally understandable.
One of the
But
things that I read about in your uh, descriptions is how you talk about the concept of addiction being an allergy and the phenomenon of craving that it's triggered by it's an allergic reaction, right?
yeah, yeah.
And it's not necessarily a genetic condition.
Oh no, it's in my opinion, it's definitely genetic. An allergy is medical and it's internal. They haven't been able to tag or link the genetics, but like look at people who are have addiction and alcoholism, it's always running through their gene pool.
Somebody, a parent,
Yeah,
a
of course.
grandparent,
And
right?
even when people say, "Oh no, no," when I'm like, "Yeah, look a couple of fucking generations." It's there, and that's okay. And I'm not saying that as an escape goat. I'm saying that, to allocate understanding and responsibility. Like if it's in your
You got
genes,
to be extra careful.
not only that, there should be a consistent fair warning. You know what I mean? Because the only the and this is where and maybe it's big pharma, maybe it's big hospital, maybe it's government, who knows why, but or maybe not. I'm really not a conspiracist, but it's not widely known that there's an allergy concept that springs right from Alcoholics Anonymous. That's not mine. Alcoholics Anonymous in the doctor's opinion speaks of it being an allergy. I just take that the next I just took that and ran with it because what happened to me, little did I know, when I put a drink or a drug in my body, I ignited the allergy. And it's a very different allergy than most allergies because it starts slow. Once it's ignited, like someone who's allergic to crab puts crab in their body and their throat closes up,
Right.
right? It doesn't slowly close up over time. But with alcoholism and drug addiction, the allergy is slow to form.
Right. And then
And
you also start developing a tolerance. So you need to take more and more and more in order
yeah,
to get to that feeling of freedom and numbness, right? Where
yeah.
you're kind of escaping. Yeah, so
I
I
mean,
could
and the definition one of the definitions of an allergy is an abnormal reaction. I have, and people like me have an abnormal reaction to drugs and alcohol. And it happened pretty early on, but in a very low percentage of power. So and maybe the first inkling of it is that I did feel so enlightened. Maybe most people don't feel that enlightened
right, right.
because their allergy, they don't have the allergy. This only occurs with people that have the allergy. The term that they use is disease. I don't love the term disease. I'm okay with it. I don't, it's not, it doesn't I don't it doesn't I don't sense it as a negative. I just think that an abnormal reaction to something is exactly what I have to drugs and alcohol, and that abnormal reaction is called the phenomenon of craving.
Hmm.
And the phenomenon of craving starts slowly, and I got no fair warning. It's and once it gets its grips into you, which it got its grips into me, um it's almost a life or death situation, and most of the time you lose.
So how did it start spiraling out of control where you start getting to that point where you're basically hitting rock bottom?
um because started to do more of it and more of it, and I grew, and the allergy got stronger, and the phenomenon of craving um got more robust, and I didn't stop when everyone else stopped. So at the end of the night, they wanted to go home, and I'm like, I'm not going home.
Let's keep partying.
Yeah. And and sometimes I had other people that, went with me, and sometimes I didn't, and I still went by myself to get more of whatever it was, usually cocaine. And how did it spiral out of control? Because when you're under the spell or guise or ignited allergy of the phenomenon of craving, you're doing too much for too long, and you're spending whatever resources you have to get more.
Right.
And at that point in time, it was, money that I really didn't want to spend, that I never set out to spend.
Hmm.
And or being out, to the next day, when I wanted to go home and go to bed. You know
Right.
what I
It's
mean? Like
it's
I
all
was,
right. It also comes with the careless behavior, right? At that point, you don't care if you're spending $1,000 that night.
yeah,
You're in a different state of mind, and
yeah.
then you're
Well,
regretting it when you realize that you don't have enough money to pay the rent.
yeah. Well, that's why they call it a phenomenon of craving, because the only thing that matters is more.
Mhm.
So nothing has value. The
Right.
only value that money has, or a bracelet or a watch or something that you could steal, the only value that that has is more drugs. Um, so that's how it's spun out of control. Um, the allergy got stronger. They say it progresses. It's a progressive allergy, a progressive disease. And it's important to describe that in practical application. So it's fun and soothing, and then it's fun and problems, and then it's just problems. And that's the arc. And those problems get deeper and deeper and worse and worse. But what I'm saying is, to the importance of a fair warning in education, early education and early detection, just like anything, early education and therefore early detection. When it's fun, and then fun with problems, when it starts getting problematic, that's when you pull the cord, or know that, hey, I've been taught since fifth grade that this runs through my family. This is what it looks like. I do more than those around me. I'm different than those around me regarding this. And the most important thing that the education would provide was, it's not moral. You're not less than, it's not a weakness.
Yeah,
Like
there's
I
a
wasn't,
shame. There's a shame associated with it,
yeah,
right?
shame. Yeah. Thank you. So therefore there's no shame, right? So I could say, or you as my best girlfriend could say, oh, Scotty boy, I think you got that fucking allergy, honey.
Right.
And,
Right.
like,
And
no
it's
big
okay.
deal.
And
And
it's
oh, by
okay.
the way, didn't you say your mom was an alcoholic too? Like,
Right.
oh, Scott,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Let's
know,
pay attention to
let's
this.
pay attention, right? Because in the education and the fair warning is that it only gets worse and worse and worse, and in the worse you lose everything and people die.
Right.
And I don't know, like, this is just my intuit my well, what I like to call intelligent intuition. My intelligence fused with my intuition tells me that it's going to help a lot of people.
Hmm.
Not all, and that's okay too, right?
Not everything is for everyone, right?
Right. Well, whoever's meant to get it will get it. But the proper effort to send the message, and in the manner that the message is sent, and the consistency of that message, right? Practiced, understood, you know, to your point, made sure that it's not linked to shame,
Well, that's just
is
it because
really important.
what happens with society and societal pressures is that alcoholism, drug addiction, cocaine addiction, right? Oh my God, you're such a fucking loser.
Yeah.
You're nothing, you're a nobody. What's the difference between that and somebody that's addicted to sleeping pills or Xanax or
Yeah. Nothing.
antidepressants?
Well, they get there too. They get called that too, but it's
But it's more
later seen.
right, it's more accepted. And, because a physician is now prescribing it to you who's getting paid by Big Pharma because
Yeah.
Big Pharma is just making more and more money. So it's
Yeah.
just about what society says is acceptable or non-acceptable. So it
And the
is really
truth,
important.
it's self-diagnosed too. Like you in the education, there has to be a practical application of what it looks like and how it plays out. It has to be understood that it's medical and not personal, and therefore there's no shame. And there has to be education on the person that has it and the person that doesn't have it. So you, as my best girlfriend, you're not saying, Scott, you're a fuck up. You left me in
Right.
Miami. You're saying, Scott, that's a baby. I got home okay. It's fine. I
Yeah,
didn't like
yeah.
it, but
But we need to
that's
we need to work on this. There's a problem.
honey, you know,
Yeah.
with terms of endearment,
Yeah.
like baby. And I'm not even saying that that's I'm not, I'm saying that fully through. I'm not saying you have that conversation with me once, twice, or three times, and then that's it, and then you're pissed off. I'm saying it's your responsibility as an educated person on the allergy of alcoholism and drug addiction to consistently be Scotty, baby, honey. And that's the same tone 20 times in. Like you don't get fed up with me. You may not want to go out with me
But then,
anymore.
but then you have to also look at it from the perspective of that family member or that friend where you're constantly fucking up over and
Well, I'm not.
over and over again, and you're
You're
going to
not really my
jail.
right. You're not really my friend anymore because I'm messy. But when you get the chance to have a conversation with me, when we do have a conversation with me, it's always, baby, the allergy is real. You
Yeah,
obviously have it. Not you're a fuck up. You should have listened in 11th grade when it started to show itself. Now look at you. You're 30 years old. Like it's none of that fucking helps.
yeah.
None of it helps. And if you knew, because like you don't like, here's the thing. Somebody, it's the exact same thing. You ready? Someone who's allergic to crab isn't criticized by that allergy, whether it's from you, the other person, or themselves. And that's where we need to get to. There needs to be no self criticism about this allergy because it's just like any other allergy. It has an abnormal reaction to a harmful response. And that's crab, that's peanut butter, that's whatever it is that causes that's ignited when the allergy is ignited and causes the harm. And for all we know, if this was really widespread and understood from an early age of education and therefore detection, there might not be a 20th time that I'm going through that. Maybe two, three, or four. And then I'm like clicking into the education that I got all my elementary, middle school, and high school life and be like, oh, fuck, I do have it. And then I'm linking it to my mom, who's an alcoholic, or my grandfather that's an alcoholic. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm done. Like, this isn't,
Yeah, I
you
don't
know,
want to fall down that path.
no, it's a look. You ready? Nobody takes a bad bet. If I said to you, hey, you want to
True.
buy a stock, you're going to lose the money in 10 fucking years.
Hell
10,
no.
10, you're not buying it.
No,
It's the
right,
same
right.
thing. It's a
Yeah.
bad
I
bet.
like that analogy. I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Well,
it's
and the
true.
reason why I came up with that analogy is because it's true. Like,
Yeah.
here's Scott. You want a bad bet? Take this bad bet. I'm not taking a bad bet.
Mm-mm.
It's a bad bet.
No.
If you're suffering, and it's okay for me or you or whoever to go through the fun and then the fun with problems and investigate it. Try not to have the problems
Right, right.
and then fail, if so, at the problems, and then gain your evidence.
Sometimes we need to, it's like the parent telling the kid, like, don't touch the stove because you're going to get burnt. You're going to get burnt until you don't get burnt on the
Mm.
stove. Then you're like, oh shit, let me not touch the stove again. It
Yeah,
happens to us too,
it's
right?
fair.
Yeah.
Trust me, I had to do it. I had to check everything off before I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I have it.
It
And
happens
then I went to,
because you don't want to accept it. You don't want to accept that you have this
well, I
allergy.
wanted to there, see the problem, and this is part of the education for early detection. It once was fun and soothing and even sexy. So I wanted that. I
Hmm.
didn't want to have to give up on it. I wanted, and we also live in a society, at first you don't succeed, try again. Well,
Yeah.
it's not for this. People that are allergic to crab don't fucking try again.
Right. But that's the difference, right? Once their
Mhm.
throat shuts,
Yeah.
shuts, they know that they can't touch peanut butter. They got to stay away
Yeah.
from nuts. They can't touch
Yeah.
the crab,
It's a
shellfish.
priority,
Right. Not
you
not
know.
for not for the person that is so-called addicted. At that point,
Well,
it's very
that's because,
difficult for them to
well,
control it,
and
right?
that's because of ignorance. I had no idea what I was dealing with. None.
So in this very difficult path that you were going through, you got to a level in your life where you were homeless.
Yeah, well, I got to a point three separate times, and you'd think after the first time it would fucking hit home, right?
And it that's crazy.
No.
That's
And the
insane.
homelessness that I was is that I had lost everything. I couldn't pay my rent. I was getting kicked out of my apartment, and unless I went to a treatment center, I would have been on the streets. So I was homeless. Did I live on the streets? No. I never lived on the streets. I never took it to that level. I always pulled the white flag up. But it was a temporary white flag.
Hmm.
It was just let me get my shit together and then figure this out. It wasn't, oh God, I really do have the allergy. I never would have been in this situation. The only reason why I was in that situation was because of the phenomenon of craving. And the only reason why the phenomenon of craving did what it did to me was because I have the allergy. That's it.
Hmm.
I had other maladies. Like I suffered from low self-worth and low self-esteem, but so does a billion other people that
Right.
don't have the phenomenon of craving and therefore basically stop properly.
Hmm.
It's not about that I use, it's the fact that I couldn't stop using.
Right.
There's millions of people that overuse but don't lose everything. And that's because they don't have the allergy.
Did you ever fall into a mental state where you contemplated suicide because you were so low at one point?
Yeah, but by the time that I was in that state, I had already done about a 2-year stint in a 12-step community. So I knew there was hope,
Okay. All
or
right.
I would have jumped.
Thank God.
Well, yeah, I just, the only difference between me, a survivor, and those who died is for whatever reason, this lifetime, my purpose is important to God, in my opinion,
To stay
where
here.
where it intervened.
Hmm.
Um,
I agree.
I'm not stronger, I'm not better. I've just allocated something that probably needs to be accomplished this lifetime.
Right, right. No,
Which
listen,
does,
your purpose is to help others at this point with your experience. You're comfortable talking about it. A
yeah,
lot of people aren't comfortable talking about an addiction or an allergy, whatever we're calling it, right? A lot
yeah,
of people don't want to say, I have a problem. I have an addiction to cocaine. It's very stigmatized. You're very,
yeah.
you could lose your job. You can lose your wife. You can
Well,
lose.
I understand that aspect. The other aspect is just ignorance because it's not anything personal.
Hmm.
It's not something personal, and that's the absence of the knowledge, therefore education on the allergy concept.
Yeah.
That's not mine. It springs right from the Alcoholics Anonymous book. In the doctor's opinion, it's the first chapter in the book. And that's what happened to me. I went to a 12-step program, back to a 12-step program, back to a 12-step program.
How many
And
times did you do it?
I mean, I was what's called a chronic relapser from age 18 to 34.
So how does that work then? Like you get arrested and they send you to one of these treatment facilities, or you do it on your own?
How it works is I was mostly sober, but I would relapse because I didn't have a concrete um education, therefore decision about not putting it in my body. Right? I wasn't educated for whatever reason. I didn't get that education from the Alcoholics Anonymous right away. Maybe it was given to me and I didn't hear it. Maybe it wasn't sat. Maybe I wasn't sat down and said, "Read this shit
It,
and
it,
let's
ju-
talk about it."
or it just didn't click at the time,
Either
right?
way you slice it, it really doesn't matter to me. But what does matter to me is that you sit somebody fucking down and you read that to them.
Right.
That specific point, because you're not getting rid of an allergy. An allergy does not go away. So my relapses on the back of a thought that said, "Oh, maybe this time it'll be different," was ignorant because I wasn't point blank drilled in me. You can't accomplish this. I thought I was different. Um, so I just had to learn that lesson about 3 or 4 times until I finally came back as teachable and as willing as I needed to be to either finally hear the full message or be directed to that full message. Because once I heard that full message, it was over. I mean, I went. It was an aha moment. I'm like, that's what I have. That's what this is. I mean, I
How
thought it was a riddle within a riddle within a riddle within a
yeah.
riddle.
Like when you
And
get
here,
it, you get it, right? When you know,
and
you
here,
know.
and here it turns out to be a fucking allergy.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So let me ask you
So
this.
simple.
A lot of a lot of people that I've spoken to that deal with these, life challenges, spiritualism plays a really big role in recovery and just self-acceptance and love. How big of a role does spiritualism play for you?
Well, it's a good question. It's probably the second most important thing. The first important thing is to educate yourself on what you have and what you can and cannot do to survive. You can't put a substance in your body that you're allergic to that's harmful. Period. End. And then, secondly, you have to start working on the spiritual malady that you have and this emptiness as a result of how you grew up, what you thought, and oh, by the way, all the baggage and bullshit you picked up along the way by being in active addiction. That's a horrible, horrible experience that you're compounding this low self-worth um mental cadence,
Yeah.
like
Right? It's like
so
it's like on constantly, constantly, constantly. Can't
constantly,
turn it
and
off.
rightly so. I mean, I was doing something that was harmful to myself.
Hmm.
I just didn't know that I was. I didn't know the cause. I just knew the effect, and the effect was devastating. I lacked the real knowledge of the cause, and the cause is the allergy, right? That's it. Period. End. People don't do what I do or that an alcoholic or an addict does without having the allergy. Period. They don't have the ability to do it. They go home.
Yeah, it's true. It's true
They're
because so
like, I'm
many
not spending my last $100.
no, or
I'm
I'm not
not
having 10
panhandling.
bottles. Right. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that, that's the phenomenon of craving.
Yeah.
That's why they call it a phenomenon. Panhandling,
Right.
that's a
Right.
phenomenon to get someone to
To get to that
panhandle
level, to that
or
point.
sell their body for pennies on the dollar to get
Hmm.
more.
Right.
That's why they call it a phenomenon of craving. It takes someone strong and sensitive and caring and turns them into a very, very weak desperate person. It's a
Yeah.
phenomenon. It's the phenomenon that the craving creates in a person. So anyway, long story short, um, I had to dive directly into spirituality once I settled my self-knowledge about having the allergy. I didn't feel good because of the chaos and tsunami that I caused in the wake that I still dealt with, right? I still had that. And that's where spirituality started to, that's an internal tsunami and an external tsunami. And and the key to spirituality is sincerity. You have to come to some sort of entity greater than yourself with a sincere salutation. Even if that sincere salutation is okay, if you're there, prove it. You
Right.
have to be sincere about it,
Right. I'm
right?
ready. I'm ready. I surrender.
Right. Because God or whatever you want to call it knows when you're sincere.
When you're
And
ready.
I happen to be pretty sincere about it. So it clicked really quick.
Hmm.
And as soon as I said, um, it's gonna make me cry. Tell me, if you're there, and I think you are, because by the time that had happened, I had gotten out of I had evidence that there was some sort of God protecting me because of the danger I got out of.
Right. Right. Where
So
you
I
see, my
knew that
God, I got a second chance, a third
well,
chance,
there
a
was
fourth chance.
I would even call it, in the realm of supernatural
Really?
occurrences, yeah, that saved my life. So I knew that there was something there, and everybody really does if they get to that point.
Are you
Or it
comfortable
doesn't
with
even,
sharing one of those experiences?
I mean, it's the same fucking song and dance. I went like just a sweet good boy because I'm a very sweet good boy. So I go to a wedding. I'm in the wedding. I'm sober. I'm not on solid ground, but I'm sober because I didn't have the education on the allergy and how an allergy never leaves and you're always going to have it. And it's always going to kick in the phenomenon of craving. I didn't have that. So I go to this wedding. It's with all my high school friends, and I'm in the wedding party, and we're at the rehearsal dinner. And in a split second, because I have no defense from denial, denial is very cunning, baffling, and powerful. And in a nanosecond, denial can shoot the gap into your mind and lie to you in a moment's notice. See, being honest is the only thing, honesty is the only thing stronger than denial. That's why the first thing that you have to get when you're getting sober is a level of honesty of having the allergy and what it means and what it will do if it's ignited, because that blocks denial, right?
Hmm.
So I didn't have that. I had no block for denial, and I was at this wedding and I saw everybody drinking. And I thought to myself, oh, well, that I can do it. It wasn't that bad. Like it's called a deny. I call it, and I think I'm the one that calls it that because I've never really heard anyone say it. And it's part of the project. And the project is called the Anti-Addiction Project, for the record, the Free Zone Anti-Addiction Project. And it's called the denial statement. The denial statement that I made in the wedding party, at the wedding and reception rehearsal dinner, everybody was drinking, and in a split second, I entertained the idea of drinking, and I contemplated, and contemplation opens up the opportunity for denial to shoot the gap, to intercept and redirect.
Hmm.
And it intercepted and redirected my thinking. And the denial statement that I made was, "Oh, it wasn't that bad. You're away from home. It won't take hold of you." Because again, I didn't have the allergy concept nailed down. You can't stop an allergy from taking over. You can never say, "Oh, I'll just have a little bit of crab
Right, right.
and
And
my
it's not going to
throat won't
happen. Right.
close up." Right.
Hmm.
Oh, I'll just have one peanut butter cookie. It won't
Hmm.
my throat won't close.
I can
It's not
handle
a
it.
matter of how much you have, it's a matter of igniting it.
Hmm.
So I ignited the allergy at this wedding. And then, 4 or 5 drinks in, of course, I wanted what I really wanted, which was cocaine. And I took a cab to the nearest ghetto,
Jesus.
and everybody, I don't say that negative, like everybody's equal, wherever you live or whatever your circumstances is, like, please. But that's where I went. I got into the cab and said, take me to the nearest ghetto. There's probably a better word for it than that, but I certainly don't mean any negativity towards it. And I bought drugs. And when I bought the drugs, I was doing drugs in the neighborhood. And when I needed more, and I went back to the person that I bought the drugs from, by that time there was a crowd of people hanging out in that space, and they were closing in on me. And out of nowhere, this truck pulled up beside me and said, "Jump in."
No way.
And I did a Superman into it. Was an El Camino. It wasn't a truck, it was an El Camino. Remember the old El
Yeah,
Caminos,
yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
car truck?
Mhm.
So I did a Superman into the back of the truck, or the El Camino, and he took me to
Took off.
safety. Like, how could that have happened? Like,
Really,
I wasn't.
at that precise moment, right?
I mean, they were closing in on me.
Divine intervention, my friend.
Yeah, so I
Divine.
had that in my back pocket, or
Yeah.
the back of my mind. So when I reintroduced myself to God, which I had a sweet relationship as a kid with God because of Sunday school and church, and my awesome grandparents that taught me that stuff. I went back to that belief with that God, but it was of my understanding this time, like what I believed it to be. And I just, I said, "Hey, um, I'm going to stop lying." I came to it with an offering. And this is where the sincerity, I think, showed itself. And it's almost a must, right? You have to come pure. So I lied and cheated and stole everything that I could up until that point, all the time. I never bought anything I could steal, ever. And this is when I was like 24.
Wow.
Yeah, no, 22. I'm sorry, 22.
You're not a kid. You're not a kid.
I'm
You're not
not a
an,
kid.
yeah.
But as a kid, I stole everything. That's just what we did. So, like, so I said to myself, if you're going to, I prepared myself properly to reintroduce myself to God. And I told myself, common sense, if I'm going to be connecting, making a decision to reconnect and rely on that which is for everything good, I had to act good. So that meant I couldn't steal, I couldn't
Right.
lie, and I couldn't cheat anymore. And I did away with those things right then and there, and then approached God and said, "Hey, God, it's me, Scott. I'm going to say," it's going to make me cry. "I'm going to say good morning every morning. I'm going to say hello throughout the day, every day. And I'm going to say good night. And I'm just going to build a relationship with you
I have goosebumps. Just so
slowly."
you know, I have
Yeah.
goosebumps.
Oh, that's cute. That's cool. Yeah, because it's true. And it occurred to me that I want, I wanted to have a good relationship with it. And it occurred to me that the common denominator with any good relationship is communication. So I thought to myself,
Yes.
right. So I thought to myself, well, then you have to be a good communicator with God. And that's why I said, I'm just gonna say good morning, and I'm just gonna say hi, and I'm just gonna say good night, and we'll start there. And I immediately felt different. When I said hello, it was almost like I wasn't alone. And I think that's the power of, you know, God, because we're not disconnected from God. We disconnect from God. God doesn't disconnect to us. So when I tapped back in, and that tapping back in was sincere based on my offering of purity of myself, because again, I came not stealing, not lying, and not cheating when that's how I lived my life all the time. I made that offering. Um, I think that's why I was so effective.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt, the way I describe it is the entire landscape of my internal life changed when I reconnected and introduced myself. And I knew I was onto something, so that led to, hey, God, um, good morning. Let's go to the gym and we're going to work out on my chest. And thanks
You
for
can't
coming with me.
constant communication.
Yeah. You know that John Bon Jovi song, living in a prayer, like
Yeah.
living on a prayer. Well, I live in a prayer,
Mm-hmm.
living in a prayer. That's what we're supposed to. It's so nurturing and protective. It doesn't mean that I don't have, responsibilities and accountability. Doesn't mean that I don't have proper effort and action to take all the time. But what it does mean is that I don't do it alone.
I
And what
that
it
that's key right there. I think that
yeah.
constant communication is finally understanding that you're never truly alone.
And
You
think
know,
about it. If you're never truly alone, you're never lonely.
right, right,
So it cured my loneliness. And once I started to understand that I wasn't alone and that it loved me, I realized also through my teaching that it had my back and that it was guiding and protecting me. So that cured my insecurity. My
right.
I had already cured my insecurity about having the allergy, and I wasn't a loser because I couldn't stop drinking and drugging. So that part got healed, and I had solidified my sense of security, right? I was no longer insecure about why it happened and who I was. And then this cured my loneliness, my emptiness, and my insecurity of the future, because I now started to have um I started to give the outcomes to God. Okay, God, whatever you decide. Okay, God, you decide. Because
You put in the work, just show
I
me the
put in
way.
the work, and then I allowed God, and still do to this day. I just said it today. Okay, you decide. Or I love this one. Whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you imagine like really, really wanting something, but saying, but whatever you want, God,
You know
it's up
what's
to
best.
you.
You know what's best
Yeah.
for me.
This is what I'm pretty cute about it. I'm like, I really want this.
Mhm.
But if that's not what you want from me, because in my belief system is that I'm not even mine. I'm God's. From that good morning salutation grew to this knowledge and understanding that I'm not even mine.
Mhm.
I'm God's. I have responsibility, I have accountability, I have purpose, I have passions, I have all this stuff, I have wants, I have needs, and I'm certainly not a doormat, and I'm a hunter, but I'm not concerned with where the spear is going.
Right.
The spear is going and will land where God wants it to land for the best, because whatever's best for God is going to be best for me. You know what I mean? Because God's got a great plan. It's God is for the greater good.
Right. We just have to
You know,
trust in the path that we're supposed to take, right? Which is
yeah,
what
and
you
I
just
don't.
said.
Yeah,
Surrendering, doing the right thing, right? Being a good
yeah,
human,
of course.
leading with
Well,
love.
Integrity and kindness are the two things I say. You have to have integrity and kindness
Yeah,
to yourself and others. And I put
absolutely.
myself first because like you got to give it to yourself before you can give it to anybody else. Period. And
Absolutely.
I count. I matter to myself.
Yeah.
That's what I learned along the way. Like, wow, it's another one of the motto statements of the free zone is that you matter, equal to all, but you matter the most to yourself. It's kind of a takeoff of the analogy of you put the air on yourself in
At
the
the airplane,
airplane,
yeah. Yeah, it's
and you're
true.
like,
It's
hello, it's
true. You
fucking
can't
true.
pass
Like,
out if you're going to help everybody else, right? What's going to happen? You're going to run out of oxygen.
right. You can't have the shirt off my back.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even have the extra one I have in my drawer.
Yeah,
You
right.
can have the second extra one, of
Uh-huh.
course, but I'm not giving you my extra. What if I need an extra one?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's totally cool. You can definitely have the second extra one, but not, like here's where it nets out, and it's in the free zone creed. Give what you can, but
I read
not
it.
what you can't.
I'm going to do
Right.
a little clip after we're done and I'm going to read it. And I'm also going to post it on the podcast because I thought it was so beautifully written and
Thanks.
it
I
was
wrote that like 25 years ago.
very profound and
Yeah.
and I definitely identified with it, right? Like
Yeah.
I can relate to it. And I think
Well,
that for the most part, everybody's feeling that. Everybody wants that feeling of acceptance and validation. And that's where all this pain stems from.
but here's the thing. We were born accepted. We were born valid. I don't need someone validate me if you want. That's great. I like it. I call it
Right.
icing on a cake. But I was born valid.
Right.
I don't
Right.
need your validation. You know what I mean? Especially if I don't know you and respect your opinion.
Right. Right.
FYI, you
Right.
know what I mean? But yeah, everybody wants to be liked and validated, and I get that. But all I'm saying is it's not a necessity. I no longer like the people pleaser-ness inside me no longer exists because I matter equal to all. It's a tie. I don't need your validation to be okay or to pull even. I was born even. It's always a tie. We don't need it. Like I said, we don't need validation. I like it. I don't mind it, you know, but it's
So then,
so freeing. The idea
uh
is to live in the free zone. Free zone represents personal freedom. Live in the free zone. I wanted to take something intangible and make it tangible. And I did so by calling it the free zone. Personal freedom is intangible, but when you call it the free zone, it's tangible. The idea is to live in the free zone with personal freedom and maintain life there by integrity and kindness to yourself and others across the board.
so with the free zone, before we get there, I just want to ask you,
Mhm.
how long have you been sober?
Nah, 18 years. Like ding dong, the witch is dead.
Yay!
Yeah. Well, it's the lifestyle now.
Congratulations.
Like, you know what my tagline is on that? It's like, why would I do that? It's the same fucking thing that somebody says about crab. Why would I eat crab?
Right, right. I know the
I'm not eating
reaction that I'm going
crab.
to get. Right,
Right. I'm not, it would harm me. For the same reason why I wouldn't jump out of a 10-story window. It
right,
would harm me.
right, right,
If there was a loaded gun on the fucking counter, I wouldn't pick it up and put it to my head for one reason. It would harm me. If I put a drink or a drug in my body, it would harm me.
right.
I'm not
So
doing that.
let's get into the Free Zone project. So there you're offering individuals access to coaching at no charge. Is that
Yeah, the
correct?
first one's at no charge, and then it's pretty much a you tell me what you can afford thing. I
Okay.
would just never deny somebody
Mm-hmm.
access to something if they were willing. I would never deny someone access to their greater good over money.
Right. And then
But
there's
money's
also
important. I'm
and
not
then
saying that money.
there's also a community that partakes in help, right?
Yeah,
Helping
and
others
there's
that way.
there's there's lots of different communities that someone that gets into the free zone to maintain life in the free zone can access. It's
Hmm.
not all encompassing. The free zone encompasses anything that can help someone maintain personal freedom. So that's both mental, physical, spiritual, and nutritional too. Like it's all very important.
So how can our viewers find out more information about this?
Well, it's called the freezoneproject.org.
Okay.
And there you can sign up for a for initial at no charge. Um uh
Free first
coaching.
month.
Yeah, and then they can see if it's for them, and I can see it, see what if it's for me, you know.
Okay, so I'll definitely be posting all the links in the comment section
Yeah.
of our podcast, just so that everybody can have all your social media as
Yeah.
well. So let's finalize this by talking about the Foldy mat and
Yeah.
this creative,
Yeah.
innovative, you know,
Yeah. Well, the folding
yoga.
mat is a beautiful thing. I like to call it the most intelligent, smart, caring, even loving mat on the market. It's pretty much yoga, Pilates, and fitness mat. It's definitely interrupting the industry, um, and it's shifting it for the better. So the folding mat it's got four little bullet points. A, it operates like a normal mat. So any other mat, the folding mat is, but it has three built-in functions. Its functionality, if you will, its love, its kindness, its care. And the first one is patent pending folds vertically and horizontally to double the cushion, to fold the mat over, to you fold the mat over to double the cushion for extra padding and support for your joints and soreness. And just for so it's either you're protecting yourself or you're preventing yourself from
From getting hurt.
injury,
Right.
from getting hurt.
I love
And
it.
then this, yeah, it's pretty innovative. Um, did I say? And I would say it's not disturbing. Did I say disturbing? It's disrupting. Did I say? Maybe I said disrupting. There's not many product that disrupts an industry.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
comes around that's new. It's kind of a play on words because it's a compliment, to disrupt something,
A hundred
especially,
percent.
yeah, especially for the greater good. So, because I don't even think the yoga, fitness, Pilates mat has been massive, majorly redesigned since its concept.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it folds vertically, it folds horizontally, to double the cushion to protect your knee, your wrist, your ankle, whatever yoga move you pose you're doing, whatever calisthenics you're doing, you can protect your body by folding the mat over and doubling the cushion. The third thing is that it has guidelines that help you put your hands and your feet in specific ways for perfect posture. Because another one of the ways that you um, hurt yourself is when your posture isn't correct and you strain a muscle that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fourth function is it has hand and feet sections where you for perfect placement, because that's another way that people have hurt themselves, where they're not placing their hands and their foot properly, and then they're putting pressure on it, and they're
Yeah.
getting a little sprain or this and that. So it's really great for seniors. It's
Right.
really great for people with prior injuries. It's really great for beginners, and it's also really great for seasoned athletes, yogis, etc. Because a lot of the time when you're seasoned, you have consistent ailments from over time, overwork.
Right.
You've worked your
Sure.
body. Yeah, there's a better way of putting it, but that's how it came out. Um, Overstrained over time, right? A lot of strain on your body. So it's just a win-win-win. It's a great little product. Um, and you can find it at foldymat.com.
That was my next question. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
And we're a startup, so we're about 4 months in. We did really, really well on Amazon. There's great reviews. Now we're shifted over to Shopify, so we're on Amazon and Shopify, free shipping, and we've made the price pretty competitive to make sure that we're not outpricing anyone. And it's another aspect of the greater good that has been produced through me. I was taking a yoga class, and the teacher would always say, fold your mat over to double the cushion to protect your knee when you're doing lunges. It's called a
Mm-hmm.
crescent moon lunge. And every time I would do it, it would be a sloppy fold because there wasn't any seam. And I got tired of it being sloppy and interrupting my flow. And I thought to myself, why isn't there a mat that all it would take was a seam?
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked on the market and there wasn't. And then I called up my my good buddy who's a patent attorney, and there wasn't any patent on it. So the first thing I did was do a prototype. And so neat. The prototype was took a normal yoga mat to a shoemaker, because my thought was, if I take this to the a shoemaker, he can stitch it 3 or 4 times down the sides and at the top, and the seam, and that would create a seam.
Okay.
So I took it to the shoemaker, asked him if he could do it. He said yes, paid whatever it cost, and created the prototype, took it to my patent attorney, best buddy, and applied for a patent. And now we're patent pending on it. And we're probably going to get the patent within a couple of months, because you don't get patent pending for nothing. Like, patent pending means you're well on your
It's
way to the
happening.
patent.
It's
Yeah, it's
happening.
happening.
Right.
And you watch Shark Tank, and you see people, the sharks light up when you have a patent. They also, one of the things are like, oh, we're not doing this. We're gonna license this patent out to, Lululemon and
Right.
Gaiam and all these guys. We're gonna take a piece of. So it's probably heading towards licensing the patent out, and then we'll see where it goes. I think the Foldy mat, most likely, because it's such a no-brainer, protective functionality, and it also acts like a normal mat to begin with. I think it's going to probably be in every product line. I think it's going to do really well on its own, and it's also going to be in every high-end brand product line, because
There's nothing like that in the market.
there's nothing like that on the market. The market is almost going to force them to. So we'll see, or maybe not. It's no big deal.
Hey,
But
listen, you gotta think big sometimes, right? It
yeah, I
all
do
starts with
think
our
big.
thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not really like, I give it to God too. Like, I'm always giving things to God, because that's where I think they come from. In my little sweet errand boy for God analogy, is God sent me this to be helpful to others in terms of fitness, giving the elderly, a mat that's functional for them, people that are, with MS and injuries, a mat that's functioning for them, that will create a good business that will ultimately fund the free zone more so than it is now,
I love it.
because the free zone is really my main purpose. And the anti-addiction division of the free zone is very, very important. Like, we are losing people left and right, and in my opinion, which could be wrong, I don't mind being wrong, is avoidable
Yeah,
with
well, it's an epidemic,
education,
right? It's an epidemic.
with early education and early detection. Just like, dare I say, breast cancer.
Right.
or any cancer. I mean, look, I go to the fucking doctor at my age and have, my um full scale check
Check
him
up.
out for checkup for one reason, early detection.
Right.
I want, if something's going on with me that's, you know, not healthy, I want to detect it early. And it's the same thing with addiction. If it's detected early and you pull the plug, i.e., stop igniting the allergy because you know you have it and there's no shame in it.
Mhm.
I mean, so many people, not like, if think about it when you think about it, think about it when you think about it from this angle, not only the addicts, how about the family members, the loved ones?
What are they going through? See, that's what we were
Oh,
talking about earlier, right? Yeah,
wait.
it's
Uh,
our allergy, it's our problem, it's our demon, right? That we're
yeah,
carrying. But what about our family members and
yeah,
everything that they're dealing with, right? Because I think that as a parent, worse than having a child that, God forbid, is sick, right? Or is terminally ill with cancer, God forbid, is to see a child of yours in active addiction, living in the
yeah,
streets, selling their
yeah.
bodies in prostitution,
Right.
panhandling.
And that's what we want to avoid way years prior. And
Mhm.
if there's early education, early detection, it never gets that severe.
Yeah,
It only gets that severe through ignorance
right,
and keep igniting the allergy.
right.
And then because once it has its claws in you, um, it's hard to let go. It's called either the gift of desperation or it's called a spiritual awakening.
A spiritual
Where,
awakening. Hmm.
yeah, and the spiritual awakening for me was when it was my usage directly linked to my survival. And when my survival skills kicked in, the game was almost over.
Right.
But I didn't have that was prior to having the education on the allergy. I just was like, fuck this. I can never do this again in my life. How am I going to, how now I know that I can't do this because I ran the gamut. I want them to know in the middle that they can't do it because of
Hmm.
the early education and detection. So they don't have to be homeless 3 times and
Right.
lose, I don't know what, two loves of my life.
They're your families, right? How many
My
people that
fat
are that?
hurt my family. Yeah, for sure. It's
Well,
everything will get better.
right.
Even society too, because like think about the crime too,
Yeah.
because of addiction, the homelessness because of addiction. We'll see. Whatever. You
Well,
know.
listen, Scott, thank you for
Mm,
talking to me, for sharing your story with me.
yeah.
I am fascinated by your resilience
Thank you.
and all the work that you're doing and how you're serving
Yeah.
your purpose and your calling
Yeah.
through your spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And one of the
Slow and steady, like the wise tortoise. Slow and steady.
and your work is really showing that it's never too late to change and that everybody deserves, what is it that you say, life, a life of health, joy, and purpose, which you're clearly showing that it is possible to do that.
We all matter.
So to end our podcast and this amazing story that you're sharing, if you had to tell one person a tip that you feel that can help them where they're struggling, they don't know how to make that first initial phone call, they don't know who to talk to, maybe they come out and they reach out to you through the free zone, what would that be?
I'll give him the one that came to me. I was like, ugh, just down and out. And I said to myself, something will come to you. Just relax. You're gonna be it'll come to you. And I went to this meeting, this group, and in the group, I heard, I didn't hear it from the group. I heard it through like maybe intuition, or I don't even know how I heard it. But this is what I have to say. If you're breathing, there's hope.
If you're alive, there's hope. If you're alive, there's hope. You're
Yeah.
alive for a reason.
Yeah.
Not your time to go yet.
No.
Yeah.
There's always another chance.
Yeah.
Well, if you're breathing, there's hope. Take the shot, you
Right.
know?
Take the shot.
Desire change. All it really takes is desiring change a little bit. Shoot that gap, make that call, and take that action. It's not about making the call and reaching out. It's about also about what you do after it, the
The
consistency.
consistency is key, right? It's just sticking to
It's
it,
always
sticking to it,
key.
sticking to it. Because
Consistency is always key.
life is a bitch, right? Life is going to keep throwing curveballs at you, and you're going to have to deal with stress, and you're going to have to deal with pain, and you're going to have to deal with breakups. And it's how we deal with that, right? Through communication and openness
Yeah,
and and self perspective,
yeah, and
right?
not making it worse.
Right.
I mean, like life is beautiful too. Life is mostly beautiful, but it does have curveballs, and it does have change, and a lot of sometimes that change hurts. But the idea is not to make it worse,
Right.
you
Right.
know, not to prolong it.
Right.
Get through it. Alanis Morissette wrote another song, which is the only way out is through. So,
Right.
like,
Right. You got to feel
fucking,
the pain. You got to feel that emotion, that feeling, and just run right through it.
you know,
Yeah. Get
get
right through
through
it.
it. My father says, and I'm my father's son, and I love him dearly. Um, he says it's just one more wind sprint, Scott. It's one more wind sprint, baby. Get to it. You
Yeah.
know, one more. It's fine. So yeah, do your wind sprint. Know that you matter. Know that you're equal. If you're suffering from drugs and alcohol addiction, know that it's this allergy concept. Google Alcoholics Anonymous, the doctor's opinion. A PDF will come up. It will show you, read it. It's like 7 pages. And in there, you'll see the allergy concept. And you'll probably go ding, 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 ding. Oh, yeah, I've got that.
It's making sense with the way you're explaining it
I
100%.
mean, 100%. I communicate with people often. And they're like, oh my God, I never heard it that way. And I'm like,
It
well,
makes
I'm
sense. It
glad you
makes total
did.
sense. Yeah.
An
I
allergy.
have heard of that reference in the
Okay.
past. But again, the way that you explain it, you make it very easy to understand where it makes sense. It's kind of like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Why can you have
Right.
a drink and stop and I can't?
Right.
How come you can try a line of cocaine and I say
Right.
Cocaine's bad for you. I'm not even going to try it, right?
Right. And I
So,
can't stop. Right.
right,
Yeah.
so you're right, you're right.
The
But
phenomenon of craving.
thank you
That
so much, Scott. You've been
sure.
amazing. You've been so helpful.
Mm,
I know that somebody's going to listen to this and they're going to relate to it and they're going to contact you. And
yeah,
even if
it's
it's
fine.
one person, that's one person that you help save a life or get out of a funk, right? Or
Yes.
out of committing something that their families are going to really
Yeah, and even
be in
before
pain.
yeah, and even before that, it's nice to have a conversation with you and just dialogue,
Yeah.
pure and honest and authentic. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you for that.
Well, thanks again. And
Ah,
listen, I hope to speak with you soon. I hope to
yeah.
continue this relationship. I'll be following your work.
Same.
And nothing, we'll keep in touch, my friend. Thank you very much for speaking with me today, okay?
Yeah. I like to say to be continued.
To be continued.
Boom. Lots of
Okay.
love.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.